Sometimes it's really good to know some sidelines to get your opponent out of their book. And this secret sideline in the Caro-Kann for white, I have never seen this being taught in any YouTube channel whatsoever. So this is the only place you're going to find this secret sideline here. I'm going to teach you guys how to play a very interesting sideline for white against the Caro-Kann that is full of traps, and you can win this game, and there's even line with forced mate in 3. Let's take a look at this, guys. So here, of course, you're going to be playing e4. Your opponent will reply by playing the Caro-Kann defense, which is the starting move c6. You're going to play d4, and they go for d5. This is the starting position of the Caro-Kann defense. We have many variations that we can go for. From here, we can take the pawn, go for the exchange, we can advance and go for the Caro-Kann advanced variation. But this time, we're going to play a move that is not in any books that I have seen so far. Even if you put this position in the Lee chess database, they don't show any names for this opening, so it probably doesn't exist. Although the engine, the computer, says it's equal, it's zeros. So it's definitely playable, and it's something that pretty much nobody studies, which is this move here, bishop to d3. And I got some inspiration from a French defense line that plays a similar move here on move 3, and it actually works out. So let's take a look here. There are two moves that are the most popular moves here for black, which are playing this move right here. This move, taking the pawn, and this move, developing the knight to f6. And we're going to go for the first move, the knight development. Knight goes to f6. This is the first one we're going to analyze here. And if your opponent goes for this move, you're already winning. You're already up 1.2 according to the computer, because you're going to play the move e5, asking the question to this knight. And there are some moves that your opponent can go for here, but believe it or not, the best move for black is actually retreating the knight to its starting position, which is extremely sad. So more often than not, your opponents are not going to play this. They're going to go for one of these three moves. Knight here and here, which is pretty bad, and knight here, which is also pretty bad. All of the moves are actually very, very bad for black. Let's take a look first if knight goes to e4, which is a nice position. You think you're putting your knight in a very advanced post, but actually what happens here is that you're losing this knight. This knight is completely lost. After you play the move f3, this knight has no squares to go to. This square is taken, this square is covered by the bishop. This square here, you lose the knight. If you go here, you lose the knight as well. Here, you also lose it. No squares. There are no squares you can go with your knight. So the best thing that actually black can do here is go for this silly check here, queen to a5. We just block the check with our pawn. And the best bet for black here is to just trade the knight for the pawn. It's a desperado attack, so they're sacrificing the knight for the pawn, and you take it back with the knight. You're winning, according to the engine, 4.2 here. It's just overwhelming. White is much better in this position. Of course, black doesn't have to go for this move. They can go for this one, which is knight to g4. This is also very bad. It's going to take a little longer to take this knight and get to a better position. You're going to develop your knight, prepare castle. After e6, you just castle. Bishop to e7, you play h3. They have to retreat the knight. Back to h6, you trade. They take back with the pawn. Now this structure is compromised. Probably black's not going to castle kingside, but queenside doesn't look very good either, and all the pieces are still in their starting position, so very bad position for black here. We develop with knight to c3, and if we take a look at this position, it's already +3 for white. This is great position for us. We have all our pieces playing, black's not fully developed yet, and the kingside pawn structure is very bad. We're going to be exploring this weakness right here. It's going to be a great game for us. And another move that is probably the most interesting one here is knight f to d7. And in this case, we're going to go for a very interesting move, which is e6, which seems like a pawn sacrifice at first, and it actually is, but we're not going to lose here. We're winning in this position already. And black can go for two moves here, taking the pawn or moving the knight to f6. And if they go for this move, which is, believe guys, is one of the most common moves here, take the pawn. If f takes e6, here we have forced mate in 3. You can pause the video and try to find this forced mate, and it's forced mate in 3 here, guys. We're going to start with queen to h5 check. They have to block with the pawn. After they block with g6, we take the pawn with the bishop, check. They have to recapture, and even guys, even if you take the rook here, you're already winning by a lot. But the best move, of course, is to take the pawn with checkmate, and we won the game. So this is the most common move in that position. The other move that they can go for is this one, playing knight to f6. If they go knight to f6, we just take the pawn with check. Black has to recapture. In this case, it's the best move to recapture. And now black loses the right to castle. And we're going to exploit this immediately by playing knight to f3 and trying to go for this check right here. And believe it or not, guys, the most common move here for black is bishop to g4. In this position here, guys, we're already winning, plus 2.1 for white here. But after this move, it jumps to plus 6.7 for white. We're super winning because, of course, this move here is a fork. What the fork, your opponent is going to say. So you play knight to e5 check. Black's going to move the king. You take the bishop. They recapture with the knight. You take back with your queen. And you are super winning. In this position, you can go castle, develop the rest of your pieces. But according to the engine, plus 8 for white. This position is super, super good. Okay, so this is it for this situation where black's going to go for this move, knight to f6 here, and we're going to push e5, okay? So what if black plays actually take this pawn here, which is the best move? If black goes for this move, they take the pawn, you take back with the bishop, 99% chance your opponent is going to play knight to f6, winning a tempo against our bishop. We're going to drop it back, bishop to f3. And after bishop to f5, we play knight e2. We're supporting this pawn right here, the central pawn. After e6, typical Caro-Kann pawn structure here, right? This is a typical Caro-Kann pawn structure. We're going to castle our king very quickly. We're already castled. Bishop to d6 from black. We're going to play c4 right here. We're going to start pawn storming against our opponent. And black's probably going to castle here. Knight b to c3, supporting further pushes and advancement here on the queen side. And after knight b to d7, we can play c5. We can go for other moves here. For example, this move is great, hitting the bishop. There are some other options too, like playing the bishop here. But I like to go for c5, asking a question for that bishop. After they drop the bishop back, we play b4, advancing the pawns against our opponent. This is a great position for white here. After knight to d5, we trade knights. And then we play bishop to f4. We trade those bishops as well. Rook to e8, we put our rook to e1. After they trade, we take back with the queen. Knight to f6, a4 advancing the pawns. And this is a great position for white. Computer says it's slightly better for white here. It's plus 0.5, so it's half a pawn of advantage here for white. We have a great position, and I think this is a good sideline that you can play against black, against the Caro-Kann, and I highly recommend you to try this out. It's of course probably not the best line, but it's a very fun game, and as I usually say, chess is meant to be fun, and we play this game for fun. And if you're not having fun, then you're probably playing this game wrong. If you liked the video, please remember, like and subscribe to the channel for more. Give some support, share your comments down below. And as always, guys, I see you guys in the next one.